name is Sheila Lamb, and I'm with the Virginia SBDC Network. For those of you that are not familiar with our organization, the Virginia Small Business Development Center is a partnership program between the U.S. Small Business Administration, George Mason University, and local host institutions throughout Virginia. With 26 locations across the Commonwealth, we provide training and technical assistance to small businesses in their local communities. Our one-on-one advising services are available at no charge. Today's webinar, How to Manage Your WordPress Website, is presented by the Virginia SBDC Network. Please mark your calendars for the next webinar in our Digital Bootcamp series, Mobile Apps, How to Plan, Execute, and Launch, on September 21st at 1 p.m. We are recording today's presentation and it will be posted on our website, virginiasbdc.org. Due to the large number of participants, everyone's microphone is muted. But if you have questions during the presentation, you can type those into the Q&A box and we will address them at the end of the session. We have also enabled the live transcript function, which you can show or hide via your own meeting controls. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our presenter for today's session, Cameron Nelson, Chief Digital Advisor for the Virginia SBDC. Cameron has over 19 years of experience in technology and is a senior tech consultant in Silicon Valley, helping Fortune 500 companies improve their digital marketing and e-commerce. At the same time, he also founded several tech companies, including a software as a service website for tree preservation and a blockchain platform for nonprofits. Cameron is accomplished in language, culture, has an MBA and MA. He believes new technology products have the ability to shape our world for the better. Please join me in welcoming Cameron Nelson.
Thanks for the introduction, and hello, everybody. Welcome to How to Manage Your WordPress Website. I always enjoy teaching this bootcamp because it's such an important topic. I know many of you either have a WordPress website or are looking to build a website and considering WordPress as a platform. There's many choices of platforms out there. WordPress might be best for some of you, but not necessarily all of you. So what I hope to teach you today are some of the considerations and the pros and cons of using WordPress, and actually showing you how to use the interface to give you a taste of what it'll be like if you're managing a WordPress website. So with that, let's jump right into it. Our first goal for today is to discover what WordPress is and if you should be using it. It's going to be best for businesses that have somewhat medium complexity of needs. If your business has a very simple need of a website, there might be other platforms that are better, and I'll discuss those in a moment. Secondly, I'm going to show you how to set up your WordPress website, starting with finding your WordPress theme, and then all of the considerations that go into building your website on the theme that you've selected. Third, I'm going to show you how to customize your WordPress website. We're going to dive into all the most important settings that you'll need to be very familiar with if you're going to actively manage your own WordPress website. Don't let it intimidate you as I get into all the menus and the screens. Most people find that after a few hours of intensely working with WordPress, they're going to start to learn where to go to do certain functions, and it'll become quite simple. But like any piece of software, there is a learning curve. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. First off, I want to talk a little bit about what WordPress is and where did it start. Well, as we know, websites are becoming increasingly important to your business nowadays. You need a website that's functioning optimally. It needs to be mobile responsive and work well on smartphones, tablets, desktop computers of all sizes. It needs to have a good user experience and be very quick to load. So WordPress can be a great tool to create this business website, and it checks all of these boxes. It makes creating and updating your website relatively easy, and it also has a lot of features and flexibility, which you won't find in some of the more simple choices out there. Now, some of you might not know that WordPress has been around a long time, over 10 years, and it originally started as a platform for people to create blogs on, but it's evolved a whole lot since then. It's now one of the most widely used website building platforms in the world. Everybody from Fortune 500 companies to single person companies host their website using the WordPress technology and utilize its platform. If this is your first time building a WordPress website, it will take some time to get your website ready to launch and show to the world. Especially if you're new to building websites in general, there's going to be some terms and some concepts that you're just going to have to learn. And that's inevitable no matter what website building platform you choose. And here I'll mention that there's a couple other ones that might be good alternatives as you listen to the presentation. If you're thinking this is too complex or you don't need all these features, then Squarespace and Wix are the two alternatives that I recommend mostly to small business owners. We'll talk more about the pros and cons of those versus WordPress. But just keep in mind, WordPress is a very good platform and there's quite a few benefits. Firstly, WordPress is widely supported. So the WordPress platform, you can think of it like an operating system. It's run by a nonprofit organization, which is WordPress.org. That's their website. And this organization is comprised of developers. And anytime that there are new security vulnerabilities found on the internet, or they need to update things to be compatible, they're updating the WordPress code for you. And there's often updates. I would say once or twice a year, there's a pretty big update to WordPress, which makes sure your website's going to work well on any device. Any of the internet security vulnerabilities that have been discovered, it will be patched. So these types of things. So WordPress is widely supported and it's updated frequently. Secondly, multiple users can contribute to your WordPress website. So if you're a business owner and you're looking to bring on a content creator to help write text or upload images, or a developer to go in and tweak your website, you can create their own usernames, give them their own access. So when they're done working, you can just delete their username, and it just helps you keep good, tight security and control over your WordPress website. Thirdly, you can choose your own web host. So because WordPress is a platform created by a nonprofit organization, it's pretty neutral. And so any host out there will let you build a website on WordPress. And some of the biggest hosts for the websites are Google or GoDaddy, and there's a bunch more. There's thousands of hosts. But any host you want to choose based on price or based on features, you can probably rest assured that 99% will support WordPress. Next, WordPress has a lot of plugins that can add a lot of functionality and enhancements to your website. So when you start building a website in WordPress, you'll select a theme, which we'll talk about, and that theme might not have every feature you want. So say you have some really great videos of your product and you found the perfect theme, except it doesn't have a video carousel or some interesting way to display and let people sort through and watch those videos. You can find a plugin in the WordPress plugin store that'll add that kind of video carousel to the existing website. Often those plugins are free. Sometimes they cost a little bit of money, but pretty much anything you could want to add to a website, you're going to be able to find a plugin for. So that's a big bonus. It can help you really increase the functionality of your website without spending a lot of time and money on it. Fifth, WordPress is built for search engine optimization in mind. So SEO is a question I get asked very frequently in these boot camps and in my meetings one-on-one with business owners. How do they do SEO? What are the best practices? Are they doing it right? So these are the questions you might have as well. WordPress is aware of the latest changes that Google or Microsoft make in their search algorithms. And when those are released and published, WordPress updates its code base to be in compliant with the latest changes. I'll talk about one of those latest changes in a few more slides. But just rest assured that WordPress has got you covered there with SEO. They are doing the base level for you automatically. There's a lot of SEO customization you can do on top of what WordPress provides to everybody for free, but it is there by default. So you don't need to worry that your website's not going to have some basic SEO, because it will. Next is that WordPress offers many, many customizable themes. So the theme, or sometimes called the template, is the starting look and feel of your website. It'll have the basic page layout and the different pages, the images and the text where the theme creator thinks they look the best. And all you need to do is go in and replace the images and the text with your own, and essentially to make that theme perfect for your business. There are thousands of themes out there to choose from. I'm going to show you some of the most popular sites that I like to go to find WordPress themes, so you can get a head start in looking for a theme for your new WordPress website. And lastly, most of the web hosts like Google and GoDaddy and the others, they offer a one-click install of WordPress, which just means you don't need to be a programmer or anything to install it, there'll probably be a button that says, is this going to be a WordPress website? Yes or no. If you say yes, it is, then it will install the kind of the WordPress operating system for you, and it'll be all ready to take your custom theme that you've selected. So those are the benefits of WordPress. Now, as I mentioned, there is a learning curve, and I think that in general, WordPress websites are going to require the manager, probably you, to spend 2 to 5 hours per month doing routine maintenance, things like installing updates. You might have found a few bugs, you might have found a few performance issues, maybe there's an image loading slowly, so you optimize it and re-upload the image. There's a few things that you'll just be doing on a kind of constant basis. And so plan on spending at least that much time. And now if you have additional content you're going to be adding, that'll take additional time. If you don't have this ability and this bandwidth to do these activities yourself, but you still want a WordPress website, you can always hire a freelance website developer or a small development firm. Almost all of them out there are really good at WordPress because, like I said, it's the biggest platform. And they'll be able to do a lot of that for you just by taking your input and then helping you build the website. And like I mentioned, some simpler options are Squarespace and Wix. They offer far fewer features, so they're not going to be as flexible or be able to grow with the needs of your business like WordPress, but you can create a website in them relatively more simply, I would say, and quicker than WordPress. So that's a trade-off. You'll get an email, this presentation emailed to you. So these are links, and you can click on these hyperlinks in the presentation to jump to these websites and learn more about them if you'd like. So WordPress is updating its platform constantly. And one of the main examples that they've done lately is that Google updated its search engine algorithm. And what this means is that before, they had 3 factors that would determine if a website's going to show up in the search results. Is it mobile friendly? Does it use HTTPS, the secure protocol? And does it have any intrusive code or that could be malicious? But they updated that to add on the Core Web Vitals, which you see at the top. Now, WordPress, as soon as Core Web Vitals was announced and the details were made public, WordPress worked it into their system, made sure their platform was compliant, and released an update. So this is an example of them staying on top of it. And as things change on the internet, as they constantly do, and platforms update and things get improved, then WordPress is also making these improvements right along with them. So you never really need to worry that your WordPress website's going to completely get outdated because the team at WordPress, the nonprofit organization, is updating that. Now, one huge thing that's happened in the world of the internet in the last 6 months, and that'll impact businesses and people creating WordPress websites, is AI, sometimes called generative AI. You've also maybe heard of ChatGPT, which is the best known platform for generative AI. Well, as you might suspect, WordPress has not been idle with this AI revolution. So here are some of the improvements that have been made in WordPress in the last couple of months that you can use immediately and tap into generative AI to help you build your website and maintain it. So the first one up at the top, you can see an example of there's some text and you're going to have the request make this paragraph shorter. So this is just one example, but it can the AI will instantly generate text or enhance your existing copy on any part of your website and actually look through all the text of your website to ensure the messaging is always aligned. And so it does an amazing job looking at your website, looking at your holistic presence online with your website, and actually helping you write that text. It can write it from scratch if you'd like. It can make it shorter if you'd like. If you just type in a few thoughts and ask it to expand and make this bigger, it'll do that as well. So very, very powerful, very cool. By the way, these AI tools are have a small monthly fee that are added onto WordPress. I believe it's $3 a month, which gives you access to all of these. The next feature is that you can instantly translate one part of text or your entire website into any language. This can be especially helpful if you're selling to minority populations in the US that might speak a different language other than English as their primary. So you obviously don't need to go through another translation service. The AI will do this automatically for you. And the third example is with image generation. So AI not only can generate text very, very well. In fact, I have a whole boot camp on generative AI and ChatGPT, and I think that's coming up in 2 months. So I hope you tune in. But one of the newer things that AI is doing very, very well is also images. And so now you can, using the AI on images, you can describe an image you want to have or modifications to an image, and have the AI create an image from scratch for you based on your parameters. So if you have an existing image and you'd like to add something into it that's not there, you can just you can select the area and ask it to add it. Or you can ask the AI to generate a whole bunch of images of a certain topic, and then you can pick the one you like. The nice thing about this is, because they're AI generated images, they're your property and you have complete rights to use them on your website. They don't belong to somebody else, so you don't have to pay a royalty or anything like that. So it's a very cool feature. I can see a lot of business owners benefiting from both the text creation and the image creation and modification. Honestly, in the past, you would have had to go to a marketing company that would specialize in writing copy or creating graphics. And this alleviates that need a lot. It might not alleviate it for all of you 100%, but I can guarantee if you try these tools, you'll be quite impressed with them. And you'll probably find that 75 to 90% of the work you would have had to pay someone for, the AI will do for you. So it's kind of scary. It's kind of cool. I think it's definitely something to be aware of. And this is a very nice feature that's going to be included with WordPress. And again, it's about a $3 a month extra fee to have access to all these AI tools. Another question I get asked a lot is the difference between WordPress.org and WordPress.com. And there are some significant differences, and there's a lot of confusion. So I want to take a moment to talk about that so you all understand the difference and you're not confused by it. Personally, I think they did kind of poor branding into differentiating these two different companies, essentially. So as I mentioned, WordPress.org is a nonprofit organization with a lot of developers. They update the code base of WordPress. You don't have to pay anything to use WordPress, the platform, right? That's actually provided for free by WordPress.org. WordPress.com is a website that helps you build a website on their hosting service using some of WordPress.org features, but not all of them. And so WordPress.com is more of the host, like Google or GoDaddy, whereas with WordPress.org, you do have to pick your own host. So some of the differences: WordPress.org gives you full theme support. And like I mentioned, the themes are one of the best parts of WordPress. They add a lot of functionality, a lot of give you a big head start in creating your ideal website because you don't need to design it from scratch. But over on WordPress.com, they just give you a very limited number of themes to choose from. So WordPress.org is definitely better in that category. WordPress.org also allows you to use all the plugins you can find in the plugin store. And these add cool features that your theme doesn't have, whereas at WordPress.com, it doesn't allow you access to any of those plugins. WordPress.org, you pay the hosting fees, and so that's roughly $8 to $9 a month where they start, and that's at Google or GoDaddy or any other big hosting service. Over at WordPress.com, you do save a bit of money because they give you up to 3 gigabytes of your website storage for free. After that, you'll have to pay. Now, honestly, 3 gigabytes is going to be enough for almost everybody here. So that's kind of the hook that they use. They say, okay, it's free hosting. But as you'll see, there are other downsides. On WordPress.org, you have full freedom to monetize your website. You can have a shopping cart. You can sell your products, whether they be physical or digital. On WordPress.com, you don't have access to any selling or actually making money unless you upgrade to a plan called the e-commerce plan, which starts at $45 a month. So right there, this is a big expense you do not have to pay if you're using WordPress.org. WordPress.org also gives you complete freedom to brand the website however you want. So as I mentioned, really big US companies, well-known companies are using WordPress.org, and you'd never even know it because there's no logo for WordPress. It doesn't say built by WordPress or anything like that because those companies, well, they don't want to advertise that fact. So you can also very easily take out any mention of WordPress and advertising for them. Whereas at WordPress.com, they're going to stick their logo and their branding on your website, and you're going to have to pay extra just to remove that. On WordPress.org, you get access to all of the SEO features the internet offers. So this could mean Google Analytics, Facebook Pixel, which is Facebook's version of an analytic tool, and others. And you can install them, run them, and use as many SEO tools and features as you'd like. Whereas over at WordPress.com, they limit your ability to customize the SEO on your website and limit your ability to look at different types of analytics and data. So they're not going to let you install those third-party analytic softwares. They're going to give you theirs, which is quite limited in comparison, and you might find that it's not working for you. So WordPress.org gives you all the freedom with SEO and analytics. And the last thing to note here is that WordPress.org, you do the maintenance. And as I mentioned, just plan on spending 2 to 5 hours a month looking if there's an update available, looking if you've got to change some text or correct a little bug somewhere in the website. WordPress.com does more of that for you. They automatically apply updates. They automatically manage more of your the back end happenings. And you're paying for that. You're paying for that with the $45 a month plan. If you're planning on selling, you're paying extra to remove their branding, etc. So at the end of the day, my recommendation to almost everybody here is WordPress.org is the direction you want to go. I've spoken to businesses who have been confused and built a website on WordPress.com only to find after a few months that they couldn't install analytics and they couldn't tweak their SEO, or they didn't understand they had to pay $45 a month to sell. So these are some real limitations, and I want to make sure you all here understand the difference and don't fall into any mistakes with the confusing branding that they've done. So now that we all know that WordPress.org is the option we want to go with, the next choice you'll make is what theme you want. And this theme is also sometimes called a template. So those are interchangeable. And there's a few places you can go to get WordPress themes. If you just Google WordPress themes, you'll find many, many websites that sell them. And there's so many choices, it can be quite overwhelming. So my 3 favorite ones, and the ones I recommend, first off, you can start with the WordPress's official site. This is just wordpress.org/themes. Now, the themes they give you here, they're all free and they're all quite basic and simple. And they look pretty nice. They're, work well on mobile phones, but they're basic. And most businesses will want to look at a theme from one of these other 2 options because they're going to have more features. So the first one here is Envanto, sometimes also Theme Forest. And don't worry about writing down these links because this presentation will be sent to you and you can just click on these here. Theme Forest has thousands of WordPress themes built from developers all around the world. You can find them in any category. So if you're selling, if you're a bakery, you specialize in pastries, you're a pastry bakery, you're going to find themes built for pastry shops. If you're selling animal care products, you're going to find themes aimed at helping you sell animal care products. So they're very specialized. You can find a lot of cool themes. And the good thing is, the theme developers here have spent many hours and their years of experience thinking of, well, what kind of a website does a bicycle tour operator in Virginia need? And so they've researched it, they built it, and then you can look through the options and find one that resonates with you, but you don't have to go and design it from scratch. And so you're really saving a lot of time and money. ColorLib here is another good option. Beautiful, high quality websites. Some of the websites are for free on these 2 websites you can buy them from. Other ones there'll be a fee for. Generally the fee is between $20 and $80, and that's usually just a one-time purchase fee. So overall, these are great places to start your search for themes. A couple of things to keep in mind when you're looking at themes is that you want to pick a theme that's as close as possible to your vision for your website. When you get a theme, they'll have probably more pages than you're even going to need, and you'll be able to look through the pages each one by one and look at them before you choose the theme. So you can always remove a page, or if you have a page that has too many sections for information on it, you can easily remove some sections. It is more complicated to add sections and add content, even add new pages. So it's easier to remove than to add. And so keep in mind that when you're looking at themes, try to pick one that covers everything you could possibly need, and it'll make building your website faster and less expensive. So next I'm going to show you the main pages of the WordPress dashboard. Any of you who have looked at a WordPress website before as an administrator will be very familiar with this layout. It really hasn't changed much in years. Some people think it's kind of cumbersome and unintuitive. I tend to agree. I think could probably be updated, but it is functional. And once you use it for a while, you'll start to learn the ins and the outs of it and how to manage your own website. So what I'm going to do is take you through the main sections that you need to be familiar with. Each of these sections you'll need to pay attention to if you're building your website from scratch, because they will need to be properly set up before your website will be ready to be viewed. In addition to showing you these, I'm going to jump into a live demo in a moment, and I'm going to go through these pages on a live website, so you'll get to see them in a more interactive way. The most important pages here include the media, the pages, the appearance, the plugins, the users, and settings page. First off is media management. This is where you'll upload all of the images to be shown on your website. By default, this will probably be populated with a whole bunch of images that came with your theme. So many themes are going to have their own images that are placeholders, and that's fine. There's not really much of a limit here of what you can store in the media. Like I mentioned, WordPresscom gives you 3 GB of storage, but that will store a whole lot of images, nothing to worry about. Other hosts give you even more than 3 GB. So there's no harm in having many images here, even in the hundreds. It's not going to hurt. When you are ready, when you've selected some images you want to use on your website, the best thing is to click the button at the top that says Add New Image. You'll be able to upload that image to WordPress, and then it'll appear right here. There's some simple image editing tools like cropping it you can do within WordPress itself. And then the images, once they're here, you can display them on your website. And I'll show you that process in a moment. The next section is page management. Now, page management is where you view the individual pages of your website. So when you see a title here, it says About, Blog, Contact. These are the different pages people can navigate to on your website. And so everybody understands when you see a page like Contact, there's an actual file on the server that's going to be called contact.html and one that's going to be called about.html. And so each of these has that file that it refers to. And the nice thing about WordPress is it allows you to edit your websites you don't have to code, right? So you're not looking at the HTML code, but it gives you an overlay editor. It's called a WYSIWYG editor, which stands for what you see is what you get. And I'm going to show you how easy it is to make changes on your website using the editor provided. But all of that's managed here in Pages. You might find that there are additional pages that you don't need that were provided by your theme. This is very common. Some themes will give you, say, 20 different page layouts that you can pick and choose from how you want to use those. If you've got a bunch of pages here that are unused, don't worry about it. You might find that in 6 or 12 months, you want to have a new page and you're looking for a new layout and you find one here. So it's good not to delete these. All of these pages are optional pages, except the one that's called Home, which is also labeled as the front page. This is the critical page of your website. You need a home page, otherwise your website really won't load up for anybody. So just keep in mind, that's the only really required page here. The others are all optional. Now in the theme management section is where you edit your theme. And so if you have bought a theme from one of those third-party sites, you will be able to, once you pay, you'll download it as a zip file. And then once you have that zip file on your computer, you will upload it here and add it here and then activate it. So this is where you go to manage your theme that you have installed. Also, you'll see on the left-hand menu, there's a customize option. Customize edits some basic parameters of your website, and others are edited on the web page itself. So customize will often help you edit things that are in the footer or in the header areas, for example. The next section that you'll spend some time in is the plugins page. This is where you go to view any installed plugins that you have. You can activate or deactivate plugins. So if you have a plugin that you have been using, but you decide you want to stop using it for some reason, you can deactivate it as opposed to actually deleting the whole thing. That's just a bit simpler. If you want to get it back, you don't have to go search for it and reinstall it. You can click just activate. Also, if there are any updates, and you'll see that there are two on this example image, that they say there's a new version available in the beige banner. You can click that button to update now. Usually it's a good idea to update plugins on a regular basis. Now, you don't have to update every plugin every single time there's an update available, but the reasons why updates become available is because Google, Microsoft, the big tech companies, they're changing their codes, their code base. And so websites kind of need to stay compliant with a lot of that. Also, there can be security vulnerabilities that have been discovered in Windows operating system or Linux or other things. And so some of these updates address security vulnerabilities that could affect your website. So for those reasons, to make sure that your website is always compliant and therefore accessible and doesn't have security vulnerabilities, it's usually a good idea to keep the plugins updated on a monthly or every other monthly basis. User management is where you go to add new users to your website. In this example website, there's only one user. This is the owner, the administrator. You can add new users for free. There's really no limit. I think the limit might be 100, but rarely do people ever get there. And it's a good way to limit access to subcontractors or even employees or staff or friends and family who might be doing things on your website. Whenever a page is modified, there's going to be a log. It's going to say which user did it at which time. And so if something goes wrong, you have some accountability. Also, when the time comes, if you don't need that person working on your website anymore, you can simply delete their username, which will remove their access immediately, really helping to keep your website secure. Some people would, share their administrative username and password with other people in these cases, but that's not a good idea because, and I've heard this happen where they've had a developer working on a website. Things didn't go as planned. They didn't like the developer's work. Maybe there were some problems with the payment. Anyway, it wasn't a good situation. And they forgot that the developer still had access to their website. They didn't change their administrative password. And so they felt really uncomfortable with that situation. So you always want to make sure that you are keeping your website secure from an administrative point of view and creating usernames that are unique for different people for the various purposes they have of engaging with your website. And the last part of important settings in WordPress are the general settings. Here you can manage things that are very foundational to your WordPress website. Things like the site title and the tagline. These will be the pieces of text that appear up at the top of the browser window when somebody is looking at your website. You can control it here. You can also set things like your time zone and just some basic settings. Generally, these are going to be preset for you, probably accurately, but you always want to make sure that you log in here, make sure everything here looks correct, and click Save Changes. Once you've done that, you don't really need to worry about what's in settings much after that, unless you're looking for something very specific to change. And that concludes the formal part of the presentation. And what I want to do now is jump over to a live demo website, which is going to give you kind of a firsthand look of how some of these pages interact in person and give you a better sense of what it takes to manage a WordPress website. So in this demo website, you'll see the first page we're presented with is called the dashboard. This dashboard can be customized to your needs. Depending on your host, you might have different things put here by default. And also, depending on the plugins you have installed, they might put some information here. So this information is all customizable. We have a section here called At a Glance, which talks about how many posts have been made, how many pages the website has, etc. So some people use the dashboard, other people just ignore it. It's up to you if you find that useful, but you can add and remove things here that are kind of giving you that dashboard view. The first thing we're going to dive into in detail is the media section. So in the media section, this is where you view and add and delete images that are displayed on your website. You can see there's going to be probably many images in the media section, and that's fine. You can always delete them if you find that you're running out of room and you get some sort of a warning from your host. They usually email you a warning saying you're using 2.5 out of 3 gigabytes of storage, and of course they want you to upgrade. So if you ever get to the point, you can just click on images and remove them. But another core feature here is adding an image. So for that, you just go up to the top and you click the Add New button. And then you simply drag and drop a file or select I click on Select Files to upload your images. Now, keep in mind, the main image file formats here are going to be JPEG and PNG. There's usually not need for other formats on your website. You might find websites with some kind of newer formats or even exotic formats. They haven't become widespread yet, so I recommend that you would just upload either a JPEG as a standard image or a PNG if you need it to be a transparent image, like if you're using your logo in the header area and you want that to blend in with the header colors, you'll need a PNG image for that. Now, it also says here maximum file upload size. In this case, it's 128 megabytes. I've seen this vary from as low as 20 megabytes to as much as 200. And this just means for any one individual file, there is a limit of the size. This is imposed by the host, and it's usually not changeable. But for almost everybody in every use case, you're going to be uploading images, which are going to be small in file size. And so I want to take a moment to explain the file size considerations here. If you're taking pictures on a smartphone or a bigger DSLR camera for your business website, those images as they come are going to be very large, probably 5 to even 10 megabytes. That for a website is gigantic. And if you have multiple images of that size on a page, it'll load very slowly, especially with people with slower internet connections. It might make the page just appear like it's not even there. And people will leave the website if it's so slow. Plus, it'll negatively impact your SEO ranking from Google and Microsoft. They will know your page loads slowly, and therefore they'll say this isn't very well optimized. We shouldn't show it. So my recommendation for most photos is that you will compress them to the size of around 100 to 200 kilobytes per file. And so if you have your 5 megabyte file from your phone or camera and you want to compress it, you can either do that in a program like Adobe Photoshop or Lightroom, or if you don't have those, it's not a problem. You can just Google free online image compression tool, where it'll let you upload one or multiple images. You could upload 10 or 20 and say, resize and compress all of these down to 100 kilobytes. It'll do that, and then you'll use those smaller compressed files for the website. This is really important to make your website load quickly and to get higher in the SEO rankings for the page load speed. And so those are the main things you'll do in the media library section. You can also click on an image if you want to just crop it a little bit. That's easily done here as well, but you can't do any more advanced image manipulation. The next section we're going to talk about are pages. So pages have a list of all the pages on your website. And, in this case, there's 105 pages, which is fine. Not all of these pages are being used, and this is a large website anyway. So your website might have 20 or 30 to start with, maybe more. So as you hover over each of the different pages, you see several options pop up. And the most common ones are going to say edit, quick edit, trash, view, duplicate, and edit with Elementor. So the buttons are pretty much what they say. Edit takes you to an old-fashioned editor, which isn't recommended to use. It's only if you have some reason why editing with the more advanced Elementor editor isn't working. You could go to the edit. But in general, you want to ignore that one. You can do quick edit if you just want to change something about the page, like the title. So say you wanted to rename About Us to About My Company. Well, you can do that very fast by clicking on quick edit and retyping that in. So quick edit's useful for that simple purpose right there, and you might do that occasionally. The last option here is edit with Elementor, and this is what you really want to be focusing on when you're going to make changes to your website. This is going to help you edit the text and the images the most quickly, and this is really the optimal way to use WordPress. The other options here are trash, which will, like it sounds, remove this page to a kind of a temporary trash can, which you can then bring it back from, or permanently delete it. Viewing the page just lets you view it as a user would on the internet, which can be useful for testing out changes. And duplicate this. This is most useful if you say you have a page and you really like the layout. You want to make a page with the same layout, but with different content. You can duplicate the first page, rename it, swap out the content, and now you have your second page very easily made with the same layout as that first page. So in this case, let's click on Edit with Elementor, and we'll take a look at how to make some simple changes to the content of this page. So as I mentioned, this is what's called a WYSIWYG editor, which stands for what you see is what you get. It's kind of an old-fashioned term, but I like using it because some of you might have heard of it before. And so simply when you're in this editor, if you click on an element, you'll be able to interact with it. So for example, clicking on the button here lets you change the text and change where that link goes. You can also change things like the size of the button if you want it smaller or bigger. You can make it aligned left, center, right. Basic modifications like that. You'll also see that occasionally when I'm showing the Elementor editing interface, you'll see these little pink dots. Now, as I showed the screenshots of how you get AI image generation and AI text generation, this is the new thing they added a few months ago, these pink dots. And wherever you see them, you can click on that and it'll bring you up to a page where you can request to make those changes. Now, on this website, we're not paying for that $3 a month level, so we can't see that in action. But if you do pay, then you can click on that. And from anything from the text of the body of the paragraphs to the headers to the images, as you've seen, you can very simply and easily edit that. And for example, if I want to edit some of the text in this section here, the body of the paragraph, when I click on it, I see the text, and anything I type in here will immediately be made live here in the editing window. And one thing to keep in mind is that if you make some changes, you'll need to click the update button at the bottom of the screen to have those changes made live to the internet. If you try to navigate back after making changes without clicking update, you'll get a little warning message. Let's see if it gives it to me now. It didn't give it to me now because I didn't actually type any changes, but it'll say, are you sure you want to exit without saving? So just to give you that warning, if you're sure you want to make the changes, go ahead and click the save button, and then they'll be made and visible immediately to the internet. So these are the main reasons why you come to the pages section. Generally speaking, you spend a lot of time here in pages as you manage your website and interact with it and edit all of the content, which is one of the main things you'll be doing building a new WordPress website. The next section I want to talk about is appearance. So appearance section will show you the themes that you have already installed and available. In this case, we have, well, essentially one, maybe two different versions here, which is why they show up in two different places. But if you have added additional themes, you'll see those here as well. If you want to add a theme, you can click the Add New Theme button. And this is going to take you to that WordPress.org/themes list. And these are the themes that WordPress provides for you. If you find one here that you like the look of, you can click Install, and then you can actually install it, build your website from it. You can also click this preview button, which I'll try now on this one, just as an example. So clicking preview lets you actually navigate through the website and envision that these are your pictures and your text. And so you're getting a sense of the layout, you're getting a sense of the color scheme, and mostly the things like the layout, the color scheme, the fonts, you can't change easily. So you want to make sure that when you look at one of these, you like those elements. Well, things you can change easily are the text and the images, and you can remove elements. So for example, if you don't want the gallery section here when you install this theme, you can just right click and remove that whole gallery section. However, adding it back in is another matter, and that's where it gets more complicated. So you can easily remove elements you don't need. And I recommend that you would find a template either with this in this list here, or with one of those other websites I sent you. And make sure you spend a good amount of time finding the right template, because it'll save you a lot of struggle and sometimes grief to get a template that fits most of your needs right at the beginning. Some people have asked, is it possible to change my template without losing my content that I already have? So when you go back to, I'll go back here to your installed themes page, you have the ability to activate a new template. And what this will attempt to do is move over your text and your images from the existing site to the new one. But in most cases, the fields don't really line up. And so there's not places for images to go on the new one. So not everything is going to work perfectly. In fact, in most cases, I recommend you, if you're going to change to a new theme, that you basically plan on rebuilding your website from scratch. This also gives you a good opportunity to tweak it and maybe make it more efficient and streamlined if you're actually considering changing your theme from an existing theme. Which is all to say that it's good to spend additional time at the beginning of this process so you don't find yourself with a theme you don't like after a few months and all the time you spent building your website on that first theme. There's no real limit to how many themes you can have here in this list. And also, if you have bought your theme from a third-party website, you'll see there's a button near the top that says Add New. You'll just simply click on that, and you can click on the button here that says Upload Theme at the top as well. And once you click on that, it'll say pick your zip file that you bought and you downloaded, and it will install the zip file. So those are the two ways to get a theme. You can either select from this list here or upload that zip file you bought from the third-party website. And the standard format for all WordPress themes is that they'll give it to you in a zip file. So it should be relatively easy to get that. Going back to the left-hand menu under Appearance still, we've been looking at themes, but now I'm going to show you the Customize. Customize is a place where you can go to edit some, I would say, more basic features of your website. For example, one of the more common things you can edit here is things in your footer area. You can also change things like the content that is displayed in your header area. This is generally speaking, the place you go to change the logo that is displayed on the website. So for example, in the center top here, you can see where the logo is. If I were to change it here in the settings on the left, now the website would be updated with the new logo. So there's a lot of things, and I won't save that change. There's a lot of settings you can change here. Let me go back real fast. As you can see, a lot of settings you can change here. What settings you have available to change here do depend on the theme you have installed. So you might not see all of these with your theme. That's fine. That just means you're going to change those settings somewhere else. And this is where WordPress gets a bit baffling to some people, because different theme creators sometimes put options to change parts of the website here, which we found under the Appearance Customize tab. And if I back up, I'll show you another place where they're sometimes visible. Other themes will put an item here under Appearance that says something like Customize this theme. Now, if you see that here, that means that that's added by your theme, and that's where you'll go to change a lot of the settings you would normally find under the Customize button. So I know it's a bit confusing, and this is probably a point of frustration to most first-time WordPress website creators and business owners, is where to go to find how to change the footer or the logo, things like that. So either it's under Customize, or there's going to be a new option here somewhere towards the bottom that says Customize this theme, and you'll be able to get to it there. So next is the Users section. The Users section is where you go to add and delete users who have access to your website. You'll see that they have different roles. So administrator obviously has the highest level of access. You have subscribers. You can give different level of access to different people for their different needs. You can add a new user just by clicking the button up at the top for Add New. And you only really need to specify a username, an email, and a password. And then you could pick their role here. You can see that there's several predefined roles. And so you generally just pick the one that makes the most sense for that user's needs and click Add New User. So it's very easy, and there's no reason why you wouldn't want to take advantage of that. I want to go back just one tab here to the Plugins tab because I glossed over that, but this is a very important place where you'll go to add plugins to your website. So similar how the templates are the Appearance and the Themes tab help you manage your themes, this tab helps you manage all the plugins. So this website has all of these plugins installed, quite a few. It says there's 27. So generally speaking, the more plugins you install, the more code is running on your website. And code can have disadvantages as well as the obvious advantages of doing whatever that plugin does. Additional code makes your pages load slower. It can inadvertently sometimes break other features when you have too many plugins running all at once. So in generally speaking, when you're looking at your list of plugins or going to add a new one, you want to be careful of how many you have added here. Again, there's no hard and fast rule of a definite limit. It all depends on your needs, but the fewer, the better in general. So if there's one that's redundant or you're not using, it's always good to deactivate it or remove it. To search for and add a new plugin, you'll just go to the top of this page and click the button that says Add New. And this takes you to the plugin store. Think of it like the App Store on your phone, but these apps are all plugins just for WordPress websites. It starts by talking about the featured plugins. And then they have different categories. They have a popular category. And these are the popular plugins. They have a recommended category, etc. So there's a lot of plugins. And primarily what I recommend is that you wouldn't come here and look around and say, oh, this looks handy. Let me click the install button and install it. You first want to have a business objective or something you need your website to do that it's not currently able to do. And then you can search for that plugin and install it specifically. So a very popular type of plugin you might want to add is an e-commerce plugin to help you sell products on your website. So when I search for e-commerce, we'll see that there's 1,036 results. So that's a lot because you only need one. So there's a whole bunch of options here. My recommendation is if you have a recommendation of one of these plugins from someone else who's used it, either another business owner or a friend or a website developer that says, I used this e-commerce plugin, it was great, I'd recommend it. Those are usually the best because you can trust those kind of offhand recommendations and you can search for and find it here. However, if you don't have a recommendation like that, I would think that the best approach is to look at the plugins that have the highest number of reviews and the highest star rating. Just like with anything else, normally the number of reviews and the rating score indicate the usefulness and quality of that product and that plugin. And in this case, for e-commerce, the one called WooCommerce shows up and it has by far the highest number of reviews. The rest are all much lower and also very high star rating. And I can say from experience that this is the one I would recommend as well for e-commerce. So generally speaking, if you're searching for a plugin for any type of purpose and you don't know which one is best, start there, start by the reviews. And also you can click on the button here that says more details. And this is useful to read through what this plugin claims to do. And so if you're looking for an e-commerce plugin, but say you really need the ability to do coupon codes or event codes, and that's not a feature of this particular plugin, then you should pass. Because you don't want to find out that this plugin doesn't meet your specific needs once you've installed it and spent hours setting it up. You want to learn about them here on this screen before you proceed. But once you found one you like, you can just click the button that says Install Now, which will install it and activate it and put it over here back in your list of plugins. And a lot of the plugins will have a button here that says Settings. So the Settings button will tweak and configure the settings for that individual plugin. And different plugins have different settings. Some plugins have no settings and some have many, many settings. And it all depends on how complicated that plugin is and what you need to do with it. And the very last page that I'm going to go through here, and the important one to at least glance at before you finalize your website, is the settings page. And these settings are the most foundational settings for your whole website, right? These are at a lower level than your theme. These are a lower level setting than your plugin settings. These are going to be the foundational settings for the whole website. So you're going to want to make sure that everything looks good here. They're pretty straightforward. One thing about the administrative email address is if you have a contact form, which many people do on their website, and you want a notification. So when somebody fills out that contact form and submits it, you want to get an email with that information, with their message. This is the default email address that'll go to. So it's good that you know about that and that the administrative email address is the one that will receive the contact form emails. But other than that, you can just quickly check things like your time zone and make sure everything looks okay. And that's pretty much it. So once you're familiar with those pages, and I know it looks like a lot, but after a few hours, it'll look less intimidating, I'm sure. Once you're familiar with those pages, you will be capable of editing your WordPress website and launching it. So with that, I'm going to open it up for questions. Feel free to type some questions into the chat or the Q&A box, and we'll be able to answer as many as we can get through in our time. We've got about 30 minutes here, so we'll get through those questions. If you have to hop off, thanks for joining us. I hope it was informative. And if you can stay on, I think you'll still learn a lot from the questions and the answers, because typically it's a very informative session. Thank you.
Thanks, Cameron. Yeah, right now we have about 15 questions, so we'll get going here.
All right.
Back right at the very beginning, you said maintenance takes 2 to 5 hours a month. If you use a company like GoDaddy, do you need to do this, or does GoDaddy do this?
So if you use a company like GoDaddy to host the website, you will do this. Yes. GoDaddy as the host, they essentially are hands-off. They set up the platform with the current version, the latest version. But every 6 or 12 months, there's going to be an update. GoDaddy and Google, they don't want to force updates on everybody's website by default, because if it caused some error or some incompatibility with your website, then they would be accountable, and that would be a big mess for them. So they let every website administrator do their own updates. Usually an update doesn't cause a problem. That's my experience, and the best practice is to update. But occasionally an update could make something not work properly, could break something. And so the hosts like GoDaddy are, for that reason, relying on the users to update their own WordPress platforms.
Great. How is SiteGround for a WordPress company?
So I'm not familiar with SiteGround exactly. Yeah. I'm not sure if it's a plugin or a service, but if you want to give some more details of what it is, I might have some more thoughts on that.
Okay, we'll come back to that. My site is on WordPress, but we often don't know what to do when it comes to updating or making changes. We thought it would be easier to make these changes and chose WordPress because we thought it was the best tool for handling site traffic. Is there a way you recommend that we transition from WordPress to Wix? How long might that transition take? And then they add Wix is much more manageable.
Yeah, so that's a great point. I think if you're here in this presentation, you're considering a platform to build on, you've seen WordPress, you've seen the options, the complexity, and also the flexibility it gives you. And you should also look at Wix. Unfortunately, I don't have a presentation on Wix prepared, but I think Wix is a good alternative. So if you spend some time looking at Wix's menu structure, it's more simple, and it's going to take you less time to build a website on. However, you won't have access to such an array of plugins or themes, so you'll be more limited in scope. Some businesses find that appealing. So to your question, though, how to rebuild your website on Wix, there's no automatic tool to transition your website over. What you'll need to do is create an account on Wix, find your template over there that you want to use, start copying and pasting your text and moving your images over one by one. In a lot of senses, you'll have to redesign the page layouts because it won't be an identical match. And this is also an opportunity to streamline your website and improve it. So it'll definitely take a few hours, depending on how many pages you have. You need to move that information over one by one. And then when you're ready to, there'll be a part in Wix in the settings, which you will transfer the website traffic on your domain name, like your business.com, from a WordPress host to the Wix host. And once you click that button or click that toggle switch, your new website will be live. So those are the basic steps to go through. Unfortunately, there is no easy automatic solution for that, but it'll be a manual process to go through.
Okay, this attendee says monetary transactions will take place on third-party platforms like Amazon and BookNook. I'd like you to use Google Analytics also. What platform do you recommend?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think you can use WordPress as a platform. And there is definitely the ability to have Google Analytics run on your WordPress website. You can have different pages of the website set up to talk about your products and then link to Amazon for the actual sales. That's completely fine. I actually cover that scenario in my e-commerce bootcamp. And I talk about the best ways to integrate Amazon with your existing business website. So I think WordPress can do it. I also think Wix could do it. So again, I would consider the needs of the website. Obviously, you're not selling on your website, which is fine, but how many other features does your website need? And to try to determine if Wix as a more simple platform would meet those needs, or if you need some things that WordPress can only offer. So unfortunately, that's a question that takes a lot more information to get to the bottom of, but I do think that's the decision point you're at. And I think either platform could be a good choice for you.
Okay, this attendee says, I made a mistake and signed up for WordPresscom. One of the SBDC counselors alerted me that I needed open source WordPress. How do you recommend addressing this now that I paid for a year of WordPress.com and purchased my web domain through them as well?
Yes. So the SBDC counselor who recommended open source WordPress, that is the WordPress.org package. Because they're a nonprofit organization, the code is also considered open source. So that's what it's referring to. So there is no tool or automatic process to actually transfer your website from WordPress.com to WordPress.org. That doesn't exist. So just like the previous question about moving to Wix as a platform, your process will be creating a new hosting plan for WordPress.org at Google or GoDaddy or any host you want, finding a theme, and then manually copying and pasting your text and your images over one by one and rebuilding your web pages using that process. And just like with the Wix example, when your new page is built and ready, there will be a setting at your domain host. So your domain host is that company who you bought the domain through. It can be the same as Google or GoDaddy who's hosting the domain, but it could be a different company that you bought the domain name through. At that company, you will then change a setting to point the website traffic from WordPress.com to WordPress.org. And if that's confusing and you don't understand, then you can contact the support. So if it's at GoDaddy, if they're hosting the domain or you bought it there, just contact their support, call them up and say, hey, I need to make this switch. They'll either do it for you or walk you through it. And so it's not that difficult. But yes, you will have to do those manual process. As far as the amount of money you paid, I have heard a couple of times of people who have been confused of the difference getting a partial refund from WordPress.com for those unused months. So I think it's worth contacting them and saying, it didn't meet your needs. You need this other platform, and can you get a partial refund? And they should give it to you.
Is there a particular format that is best for images?
That's a good question. There's two main image formats. There's the JPEG format, which is the most common format. Pretty much 98% of the images you see on web pages are going to be JPEG format. So if in doubt, just do a JPEG. If you need a transparent image, like your header image, for example, might be better looking transparent on your website, then you'll need to use a PNG image. And generally speaking, those are the most common transparent image file types. So either a JPEG or a PNG.
How easy is it to build your website from scratch if you already have a mock-up?
So having a mock-up is great. It has meant that you've conceptualized the number of pages, the content of the pages, the layout of the pages, and any other considerations. And so that's going to help you pick your starting template much faster. People who have no conception of what they want their website to look or how to behave, they're going to look through many more templates, kind of going through a whole different range of options. But if you already know the basic layout, then you'll just gravitate towards the templates that have a very similar layout. So in that sense, you've done some early homework in your template selection, and you should be able to find a template, maybe looking at 5 or 10, and you'll be able to pick the right one. So that's, I think, the best benefit you're going to derive from having done some early mock-ups of your website.
Before making changes, can you copy your existing site, make changes, test, view them, and then replace the old site with the new one with the changes?
Yes, definitely. In the Elementor editor, there is a little button next to the update button. Clicking the update button, again, it makes the changes live immediately. There's a little button that says preview, and that's what that button is for. So if you make some changes, big or small, and you want to make sure it is looking good You can click the preview button and it'll pop up in a new window that's only visible to you, and it's only showing those changes. So if everything looks good, you can close that window and then click the update button in the editor. You can also test that preview on multiple devices. So it's just a unique link. You can have a phone look at it. You can have a desktop look at it to make sure that any changes you made are appearing properly before you update the main website page.
Are there any DAMs that you would recommend for interfacing with WordPress and the various core social sites?
I'm not familiar with the abbreviation DAM. When you're talking about WordPress and interacting with social sites, one of the main recommendations is put your social media links on your WordPress website, usually in the footer area. But there's a lot of other integrations. You can, in fact, if you have an active Facebook page, you can put a feed of your Facebook posts on your website, which updates live in real time. Twitter has the same thing, and Instagram has the same thing. So if you're active on any of the social media platforms, when you go into your settings on that social media platform, they're going to have a page or an area for integrations. And all you're going to do is you're going to select if you want to integrate your, the most recent post on Facebook or the most recent 5 posts you can choose. And then they're going to usually give you some code which you insert on your website. So inserting the code can be a bit intimidating sometimes because you're no longer in the user-friendly WYSIWYG editor interface. You're now looking at the raw code, and making a typo there can essentially break your whole web page. So to make it easier for people who don't want to insert that code, there's almost always a plugin that will say, okay, give us the code Facebook provided, and we'll put it in the HTML file of your web page for you, removing the step that you have to take. So again, the steps would be go to the social media site, go to the integrations, get the code, and then go to your WordPress website, the plugin store, and search for a plugin that will integrate that code onto your website.
The attendee who asked that question said DAM, Digital Asset Manager. They also double as CMS, Content Management Systems nowadays.
Oh, okay. So more of managing, I think, the posting across the different social media platforms, probably. Yeah.
All right, so let's see, we've had quite a few more drop-ins. So let's see, looking at dashboard, how do you add GoDaddy or your company? So
GoDaddy isn't going to probably have anything to display on your dashboard. If you're hosting your website at GoDaddy, for example, and you want to look at your settings, you're going to go to GoDaddy's website, godaddy.com, and log in. And then there'll be a screen there where you manage your hosting. It's not going to be viewed here. The dashboard here is only going to be for mostly the theme that you've selected. It might have some information they think you would want to see, or the widgets, or the plugins that you have running. They might also have some things to include here. Also, WordPress, if you're looking at the examples still up on the screen, you'll see that some of the default dashboard options are WordPress events and news. So these are actually put out by the WordPress.org nonprofit organization. They have some upcoming events, it looks like, and they're also talking about some updates to the platform here. So this is just a news feed that they're giving you because our website theme is running using the Elementor editing interface. Elementor also has some news updates here and things like that. So you're only going to have options to see dashboard information if it's added by your theme or the plugins that you have running.
How do you load your website onto the internet?
That's a great question. So when you first get started, you're going to sign up with a hosting plan. So let's say you want to go with GoDaddy. That's a very big, reputable company. You'll create an account. You'll say you want website hosting for WordPress. You'll pay a monthly fee. Then they're going to send you to this dashboard. And now you'll pick your theme. Generally speaking, once you've paid GoDaddy and you go to your domain name, there's going to be a page that says this website is under construction, right? That's the default kind of landing page GoDaddy has. But once you pick your theme and customize it, and click update in the interface, it's going to replace that default landing page with your website that's built. And so generally speaking, there's no more steps you need to take than that. GoDaddy, again, they provide the landing page as soon as you've created an account and paid, and of course, linked your domain name to that, or bought a new domain name. And then once you've clicked update on your website, it's going to replace that default one with your actual website.
Okay, let's see. Does WordPress provide tech support for any problems you might have or want to build, access a certain feature?
That's a good question. So WordPress.org, being this nonprofit organization, they don't do technical support at all. Technical support would come from the company you're paying to host the domain name. So if you are if your domain suddenly goes down, for example, you would contact like GoDaddy's technical support, because that would be a GoDaddy issue because they're hosting it. In other cases, if you've bought your theme from a developer on one of the websites I mentioned, that developer is going to have a support contact email, and they're often quite helpful. If you have a question like, I just can't figure out how to edit the footer information, can you tell me where to do it? Generally speaking, they're very responsive and they give you instructions because they built that theme. And so it might not be as intuitive to you where to go to edit certain parts of that. So I found that to be a very helpful resource, the developer of the theme or the hosting platform. Those are your two options for tech support.
If your site does not reflect the Elementor option, is it a plugin that I need to add?
That's a great question. So I'll hop back over to the page's view to explain a little bit. Elementor is one of the major WYSIWYG editing interfaces that developers can choose to use when making a new WordPress template. There are a couple other options that developers sometimes use. I think at least 50% of the websites I've ever seen for WordPress use Elementor, so that it's very likely yours will. And in fact, when you're looking at the details before you were to choose it or buy it, you can see if it says it uses Elementor. If it does, then the interface will be what I showed, and it'll have the AI integration and all of that. If, however, the theme you pick has a different editing interface that they've selected, another major one, it'll say edit with something else here. And, the interface is going to be very similar. Most of these look very close. You're going to click on some text and retype it. You're going to click on an image and select a new one. So whichever editing interface they've chosen to go with is what you'll see displayed here in this area. But Elementor is by far and away the most popular.
You customize an email address for your WordPress website.
Yeah, so it's a good idea to get an email address at your domain name. So if you have the domain name, mybusiness.com, you want an email that says something like hello@mybusiness.com. Your hosting platform would be more than happy to sell that to you. So that would be GoDaddy or Google. However, you can have a separate server managing your email separate from your website. So if you really like, say, Microsoft Outlook 365, you can have your email hosted over at Microsoft Outlook and have your domain hosted at GoDaddy, and there's no problem whatsoever. The two things are separate, but they can sometimes be with the same company. So it all depends on who you like to use for your emails. I personally like the Gmail interface a lot. So you can get your email at your business domain to load and be in the Gmail interface that a lot of us have used, and have access to Google Docs and Google Calendar and Google Meet and all those Google tools. That costs about $8 a month through Google for one email address. And that's pretty much common. I think most of the services charge between $6 and $10 a month per email address to start. And the cheapest one I've ever heard of is about $1 a month. And that's at Zoho, ZOHO.com, which is the most bare bones, no thrill email address you can imagine, but it is functional and it is at your domain name for $1 a month. So those are some of your options for getting an email address at your domain.
Some plugin usage might be obvious. How would you know if your site is using a plugin, but its usage isn't obvious?
Oh, it's a good question. So you might look at a list of plugins here and wonder, okay, well, what does a Branda Pro do? So you might get a little bit of information by reading the description, a branding solution for multi-site, and this might not make much sense to you anyway. So sometimes the plugins might be a bit of a mystery of why they're there and what they're doing. That's pretty common. Usually the theme that you select will come with a list of plugins that the developer of that theme has determined the theme needs to operate. So for example, if the theme comes with e-commerce integration, it might install WooCommerce here in your plugins automatically because the developers specified that plugin as a necessary one to come with the theme. So that's why you'll see some plugins put here automatically because they came with your theme. If you're ever really confused about what a plugin is doing, you can always copy and paste the name, just search Google and ask something like, what does the Defender Pro WordPress plugin do? And you can read up on it. If you're absolutely sure that you do not want it, you do not need it, you can deactivate any given plugin, which is just by clicking the button deactivate. And the nice thing is if you deactivate the plugin and then you test your website and you see, oh, that plugin was doing something useful, which is now not working, all you need to do is go and click activate again. It's an easy fix. But if you delete the plugin, and you would do that by clicking in the box up, you would click in the box and then you would go up to bulk actions and you would click delete. Actually, deleting a plugin would remove it entirely. And if it broke your website, it'd be much harder to now just re-enable it. So for that reason, it's okay to deactivate a plugin because you can simply reactivate it really with no harm done.
Hey, which plugin is best to add on my website for clients to book an appointment, pick a service package to purchase, and to sign a waiver all at once?
So picking a service to sell, booking it, signing a waiver, and I assume in there's somewhere there's e-commerce payment happening. So that's probably more than one plugin would do. That's really what a website template would be built around doing. So there's a lot of templates out there who help businesses that book appointments or book different business packages. Like say you're a hair salon, you might have different packages, one for a simple hair, one for hair and nails, one for hair, nails, and a pedicure, or whatever it happens to be. You can set up those packages and then have people book them and pay, and it has to a waiver form included for sure. But that is really something you pick at your template level. So when you're looking at your different templates, look for those that have built in automatically those type of services that can be booked and paid for as part of the template. That adding all those things would be quite a hassle with different plugins. And you'd probably end up having to bring in a professional developer to write some custom code. So finding a template that's already got that built in from scratch will be the way you want to go.
Okay. We still have quite a few questions, and it looks like we're getting down to about 12 minutes left. So
okay.
To get WordPress, do I need to set up hosting first?
If you want to get WordPress.org, which is what we're showing today, then yes, you do. The only way to get to this dashboard is to be paying for hosting at a company, and they're going to be providing you the login to this dashboard at first. So yeah. And whether or not you go with Google or GoDaddy or some other website host that supports WordPress, once you pay and you create an account, you're going to have the exact same experience and the exact same interface in front of you that you'll be able to start building your website on.
My website is already created, Bluehost. Mm-hmm. I have a plugin called Hello Dolly. What does this really do? Can I delete it?
I'm familiar with Bluehost. Yes, it's a very large, well-known hosting company that's pretty price competitive, but I do not know about that plugin. I've never heard of that before, so I won't be able to provide any advice. I think I would just Google it and Google Hello Dolly plugin WordPress. What does it do? And I'm sure there's talks about that, discussion about that, and then you can make the decision. Again, it shouldn't do any harm to deactivate it, refresh the website and see, but some plugins might be working in the background, so you wouldn't see a change anyway. For example, a Google Analytics plugin, if you pause that plugin by deactivating it, when you go to look at your Google Analytics, there would just be no information there because the plugin's been deactivated. So whatever this Hello Dolly does, it might not be readily visible. So that's why I would just Google it first and see if you can find out that way.
This attendee is asking, are you recommending Elementor? I paid for Elementor and was unsuccessful in building my site. Did not renew the license. Do you offer help with it, with Elementor? And also, are all updates free?
So updates to WordPress are all free. Yes, that's the nice thing about it. You never have to pay for using WordPress, the platform, or for the WordPress updates. As far as Elementor goes, I take it to mean you picked a theme that was using Elementor as the editing interface, but you weren't happy with your experience with the theme in Elementor, so you need more help. Unfortunately, it's not a service that the SBDC has the resources to directly help you with that website. If you would like to email the general help email address here, I'll put it back on the screen. help@virginiaSBDC.org, and just let us know that you came to this presentation today. We can try to connect you with some resources that might be able to help you depending on your exact assistance required, but there'll be resources that are not provided for free through the SBDC. So if you're interested in that, feel free to reach out to us and we can try to help you that way.
What if you have a website developer / maintainer? How can the owner, the person asking the question, use the WordPress, which is installed on my website, to use neat WordPress features for blogs and not just a regular photo for the blog?
I guess I don't really understand the question very thoroughly, but yeah, I guess if you're looking for a really unique and interesting layout to your blogs and not just like a standard photo, again, that comes down to the theme you've selected. So almost every theme has a section to display your blog posts, and they all display them in different ways. So I would look at some themes, and just if you find one that you like the layout of the blog page and how they put the content and the color scheme and everything, then you might want to consider using that theme for your website, because that's the simplest way to change the look of your website is going to be based on the theme you select.
If you decide to change your domain name, can you still keep your WordPress website?
Absolutely, yes. So if you change your domain name but leave the business name the same, like you don't need to change the logo on the website or anything, that's great. You can actually just leave the website completely alone. And then in the settings with your website host, so typically GoDaddy or Google is the examples we've been given, or Bluehost, you will be able to make that change there. You'll be able to specify the new domain name that you have and link it to the existing website. Along with that, you'll also probably want to set up domain forwarding, which just means if anybody goes to the old domain name, it'll automatically be transferred to the new domain name and therefore the website. You can't really have two separate domain names running in parallel. You'll forward one to the old one to the new one and have the website hosted only in one place. Otherwise, you'd have two different versions that you'd have to update every single time. So hopefully that was clear. But yeah, that's a common thing people do.
I have the WP Bakery page builder. How does that compare to the Edit Elementor?
So yeah, I've heard of Bakery as a editing interface similar to Elementor. I'm not an expert on Bakery. I've never really built a website with it, so I can't really answer that question. I would say if you're finding it has the ability you need to make the changes you want, then great. Like Elementor is not the only interface that I'd recommend. I think most of them are very, very similar. I don't know if some lesser used ones like Bakery might have those AI features, which I really think are cool. And I think if you're building a website now and you have the ability to make use of those, you should definitely do it, because one of the biggest time drains of building a website is writing the text and figuring out what images to put, which it can help you do that drastically. So, check if the Bakery interface has any AI integration. I don't know, but I do know, and I've used it in Elementor, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty amazing. So I'd recommend that Elementor for that reason, if nothing else.
If you cater to both private sector and public sector customers, what is your recommendation on how to create sector-specific landing pages? This way the website is sticky for the sector-specific customer type?
Yeah. So that's a good question. I mean, it's about landing pages in general. A landing page is simply if you have, customers coming with one want or need and a different type of customer with a different want or need, but your business services both, you want them to come to the version of your homepage that's specifically tailored talking about their want or need, because they don't care about the other one, right? And if you jumble up your messaging too much, you might just lose everybody. So the best way to do this is, yes, you can create your homepage and then make a duplicate of it, and then reword, use different images, talk about the service that's most important to each different category and two separate home pages. And then typically you'll link those to an ad campaign. So you'll have an ad on Google or on Facebook, which will say, are you, in the private sector, do you need this? And it can go to that landing page. And then the other one can say, are you in the public sector, do you need this? And it'll go to that landing page. They're still all on your same domain name, and they all still have the same visual look and feel as the rest of the pages, but they're just tailored to those two different audiences. So hopefully that answered the question, but I think mainly I'm recommending that you will tie them to different ads. And typically that's how the different landing pages are most useful.
How do you make a link on your website, like to register for something, to work from the WordPress site? I don't know how quickly you could explain that.
Sure. So it depends on if your registration process is being done on your website or if you're offloading it to a different website. For example, MailChimp or a lot of other services will do registrations for you. And so if you're using a service like MailChimp to do registrations and even taking a payment, then they're going to give you a snippet of code which you need to put in the button to essentially make it work. However, if the registration's all being done on your own website because your theme is supporting a registration process, then the theme is going to, in the settings of the theme, it's going to give you the link to put in that button. So those are the two different ways you would get the link to put in the button. As far as actually editing the button goes, if you're in a WYSIWYG editor, you'll just click on it like I did in the example. And then on the left-hand pane, it'll have the link that you can put in there. So anything you click on in that WYSIWYG editor, you have the ability to edit, including the link of the buttons.
In order to use AI to build your website, you said it's a $3 monthly fee. Once your site is built, can you change that and go to a free version?
I believe so. Yes, it's only, yeah, of course. And once the AI has generated your content, you are free to stop using it. The content doesn't go away. So yeah, as soon as you've built your website using AI, you can stop paying.
Are there things to consider when buying templates? For example, support period, code base provided, Figma files, MIT licensing, etc. Also, where can you get good validated web application templates in React, Next.js, and Angular?
Yeah, it's probably a lot to go into right here with our dwindling time. But you're wondering how do you pick a good template? So when you look at say themeforest.net, which is a very popular place to find WordPress templates, similar to the plugin store, they'll have reviews of the templates, and so the higher reviewed ones will generally be at the top of the search. So I would gravitate towards those that have maybe a couple hundred reviews and relatively positive things to say about the theme. Also, they'll always say the support period. So a lot of developers, if you buy the theme for say $50, you can use it for your lifetime, but they provide support for like 1 year or sometimes 2 years along with the purchase. And then also they're going to have their support email address and maybe a phone number too, but generally email is the way you would communicate with them. So that's how you can vet and find a good theme.
How do I see Google Analytics on my website?
So Google Analytics is viewed by generally going to the website for it. It's called analytics.google.com. You'll go to analytics.google.com to set up Google Analytics for your business website, and also you'll go there to view it. And so that's where you'll see the charts and the graphs, things like your daily visitors, the pages they've been to, their interactions of the website, where they're from, so they can tell which countries, what states, sometimes even like what zip codes. So it'll give you all the information, but you'll go to analytics.google.com to view that, not typically on your own website.
Is the blog part of the WordPress site, or do you need a plugin?
So the blog is there by default. You know, as I said, it was part of the WordPress's history and they've kept it there. So whether or not you use it, there's always going to be the ability to add a blog post and manage your blog posts. And, you know, you can have blog posts be able to have comments or no comments. You can change the settings all very easily. But yes, those are included in every WordPress install. And how the blog is displayed, like I mentioned before, it varies based on the theme you pick and that template. So different templates have different blog layouts. So if you're interested in doing a blog, that's an important part. Make sure you like that layout of the blog because you're not going to want to change that very much from what the template offers you.
And this last question, this might have been a continuation of one before. It says, I cannot update bakery. I have to pay for a license, so I was wondering if I should.
It's hard to know what you should do. I mean, if you're unhappy with the editing interface bakery, which again is kind of a competitor to Elementor, I don't think updating it will help you if you're unsatisfied. So you might want to consider looking at an alternative website template. You can even look for those that specifically use Elementor, or at least don't use the bakery interface if that's the main problem, because there's many that use Elementor. And from what I've experienced and the business owners I've talked to, mostly they've liked it, especially once you've used it for a few hours, you start to learn the different places to go and it becomes pretty intuitive. So for that reason, I think it does get my recommendation.
So that is all the questions, and we've gone a little bit over time. So I think we probably should wrap up. But thank you, Cameron. As always, a lot of good information here.
Yeah, great questions. Thank you,
so
everybody.
If you have a quick ad at the end before I wrap us up, go ahead and.
No, just thanks for the 42 people who stuck with us. I hope this was informative. You know, a lot of information was covered. Don't be intimidated. You know, I think everybody can learn WordPress and get up to speed with it. And if it's not for you, then Wix or Squarespace. You know, that's my final recommendation. And also look forward to our next couple of boot camps on digital topics, including ChatGPT in a couple of months and AI. We're going to talk more about using that for your business, not just on your website, but in other parts of your business as well. So it should be very useful to most of you.
Yes, wonderful. And yes, thank you all for attending today. You will receive an email with a link to the recording and to the slides. If you would like to sign up for upcoming webinars or access recorded webinars, please visit virginiasbdc.org/training. This webinar and other SBDC resources are designed to be used in collaboration with your local SBDC advisors. You can sign up for a free and confidential session by emailing help@virginiasbdc.org or via our website. We hope to see you at our next session. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.